I almost forgot I have a talk. Hi, everyone. In the next 18 minutes, I'm going to change your life. Man, who am I kidding? I cannot change anybody's life in 18 minutes. I just said that to grab your attention. But what if it's not easy for you to pay attention at any time in any situation? My name is Negar, and today I'm here to talk about ADHD. Growing up, I was that kid that I could not sit still. I was always at principal's office, although I was known for being overly polite and docile. But somehow, all the trouble at school was linked to me. I used to hear it from all my teachers that we do not understand how smart you are and how stupid you are at the same time. People wish they had your brain. They work twice as hard as you, and the result they get is just half the result you get. And you waste all that potential. Hearing that made me feel guilty about myself all the time. I was so mad. What was wrong with me? Why was I so weak that I could not focus on something and get a work done? Back then, neither I nor anyone around me knew about ADHD. But what is ADHD? ADHD stands for Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder. So there are 3 different characteristics of it. It's hyperactivity, inattention, and impulsivity. And there are 3 different kinds of people with ADHD. Those who are predominantly inattentive, those who are predominantly hyperactive, thank God I'm not that, and those who are lucky to have both of them at the same time, and those are the most common ones. There are theories that say that that part of your brain that is responsible for paying attention and is higher level of awareness and conscious, it's less developed and it's smaller in people with ADHD compared to normal brains. I mean, let me correct myself, in common kind of brain. That's why all the stimuli make their way to our higher and upper level of awareness. That's why people with ADHD turn with the slightest noise. So let me tell you what I mean when I'm talking about difficulty to pay attention. I do understand that all of you have those days that you cannot focus on the task you have to get it done. But people with ADHD, we have 365 days in a year of those days. Like, let's say you have an important thing in your life. Let's say giving a TED Talk. Everybody will think to remember those words that they chose carefully. They try to remember the lines, and they think about their body language. But people with ADHD, oh my God, you have such a nice tie, I like it. I'm sorry, people with ADHD get distracted even in most important time of their lives. If I want to talk statistically, 3% of the population have ADHD. By the time I was writing this script, there were supposed to be 100 people here, so my statistic might be a little bit off. But beside me, in this room, there are 2 other people with ADHD who are probably not listening to me anymore because they're distracted. And if I want to tell you how that could impact our lives, I need to share some of my personal experiences with you. In the second semester of my undergrad, I started skipping 100% of my classes. Why? Because I forget that I have a class. I almost forget everything. And even if I do remember that I have a class, I'm always late. You saw it. And even if I do survive that as well, when I go to the class, I get extremely bored. And I cannot sit still and listen to the teacher or the instructor. And I will probably end up distracting other people. Because of that distraction and forgetfulness, we tend to lose our stuff more often than other people. Look at this picture. I lost everything in this picture. The only thing I didn't lose, it's my head, because it's attached to my body. And no, I'm not one of those people with 100 kind of Visa cards and credit cards. I only have one, but I keep losing it, and I have to replace it every time I get a new one on my Uber account. So we have some sort of information, like I know that in our school, the library door opens 7 times per hour on average. How do I know? I count. Every time that door opens and closes, I turn. And I have this impulse after that to see who comes in and who leaves. And no, I'm not nosy. It's just my brain. That's how it works. ADHD is correlated to dopamine. If you don't know dopamine, that's a reward hormone. Our brain wants more dopamine than other brains. To just feel alive, we crave to stimulate those dopamine receptors. That's why, although if there is absolutely no external distractibility, our brain can have that state of internal distractibility. Like when we are alone, we never get bored. We always have a party in our brain, and we get to choose all the songs. But when we're around other people, if you're not really interested in what you're saying, even though if you're looking us into eyes and talking to us directly, we cannot listen to you. But if we are getting that dopamine more and stimulating those dopamine receptors more, what could the result be? When it comes to creativity, when it comes to problem solving, our brain works amazingly. We are willing to take risk 3 times more than other people. That's why it's more possible for someone with ADHD to start their own companies and business and be successful in it. We love experience new things and sick thrills. And we have sense of humor. We're fun to be around. And we probably are the one with charisma in the room. So it is likely for us to get into relationships or get married as much as other people. But because of that forgetfulness, impulsivity, and sometimes aggressiveness, it's more possible for people with ADHD to get divorced or end a relationship. They can actually end the relationship impulsively and regret it in an hour. Now, speaking of impulsivity, we act on emotion. It's like we want something and we want it now. We have that excessive urgency of wanting something and we want it immediately and we cannot wait for it. By showing of hands, tell me, how many of you had those moments that you were so upset that you wanted to cry? Or you were so mad that you wanted to flip the table and slap the person in front of you? Or you were so excited, you wanted to hug everyone, right? You all feel it. Or we actually do it. You know that thing in your brain that stops you from not saying stuff or not doing stuff? Yeah, we don't have that. That go ahead, do it button in our brain works way faster than the break button. That's why We're emotional, and we act on our emotion. We cry if we feel like it. And if you're excited, everybody would know. And if you're mad, it's more likely for us to get into fights. Another characteristic is aggressiveness. Did I say aggressiveness? I meant hyperactivity. That was a real ADHD here. When you're hyperactive, it's like throughout the day, you're driven by an engine, and you probably talk excessively. Having energy throughout the day, that's good, but that can lead to restlessness and insomnia. I read this joke online, and I really relate to it. It was like, if someone with ADHD wants to do those methods of sleeping because they have insomnia, they would probably be like, 1 sheep, 2 sheep, cow, dog, old MacDonald had it, and we probably forget that we wanted to sleep, and we get distracted, and we start doing something else. But why am I telling you all of this? I'm 27, and I just got diagnosed recently. When I was 7, I was diagnosed by asthma. I'm quite a package, eh? My parents recognized those signs and symptoms very soon. They took me to those best doctors and specialists, and they took care of it. And I was that good patient at the doctor's office because my asthma was under control, and I took all my medications. So what was the reason that my ADHD was not diagnosed until 20 years later? It was not misparenting. It was because my parents were educated that if the child is wheezing, if there is a shortness of breath, that means that your kid has asthma. But they didn't know anything about ADHD. Best case scenario, let's say that they knew about ADHD signs and symptoms. How would you feel if I come to you and be like, hey, your kid has mental disorder? They wouldn't accept that. You deny it. Who wants their kid to have mental disorder? It's not a disorder. It's different. Only because your brain works differently, that doesn't mean that it's anything less than other people's brain. So don't label it. Don't scare people with those labels. Those kids with ADHD, they can benefit from ADHD. Their ADHD is not a disorder. It's an opportunity. So if you have ADHD, that means that you're genetically designed to be successful. It's like you're tall, and you have more chance of being a successful basketballist. Or it's like you have a ticket to Elvis's concert, but you actually need to show up to the concert. Or like you want to cook. You, like everybody else, have those ingredients, but you, and only you, are the one who has saffron as spice. I know that when I started, I said 3% of the population has ADHD, but think about it. Only 3% of the population has ADHD. So diagnose it, manage it. And by managing it, I don't mean that take it all, keep calm. Do not keep calm. Take advantage of that ADHD and those differences. Embrace it, own it. Do not be embarrassed of it. Would you be embarrassed if you have kidney stone? Then why would you be embarrassed if your brain works differently? So if you find it almost impossible to focus, if you're always locked out and you cannot ask for help because you also lost your credit card, and if you talk excessively, that sometimes you bore other people and other people always bore you, Or if you talk sometimes so fast that other people have difficulty to follow what you're saying, congratulations, it's ADHD. So I'm gonna introduce myself one more time. My name is Negar. I'm 27. I was diagnosed with ADHD. So was Albert Einstein. Thank you.